This is a published story that I have. It appears on Prometheus Dreaming, and it is called Carefully Scripted, and it's about a young man. I say young man, he's probably in his late 30s, who is sort of socially awkward and is having to go alone to a party. And this is an excerpt from that event. Okay, so here we go. Marcus Wadley arrives at the party 22 minutes late, during the time frame he finds makes the best impression. The Uber ride from Metairie to Uptown only took 12 minutes, shorter than he expected. He's wearing the suit his mother helped him pick out a few years ago from Sears at the old mall, back when he still lived with her, before the dementia. He knows the suit fits a bit too loosely for current trends, but he's never cared much for fads. It's hard enough to keep track of the long-term rules. He's got on his good tie and his good shoes, so he should be fine. He tests the knob and it turns. Marcus has learned that at parties like this, the front doors are often left open for guests to let themselves in. His mother would call this house, with the exterior covered in carved wooden cutouts, a gingerbread, even though it's nothing like a man-shaped cookie. Marcus wonders at a pile of purses near the stairs in the empty foyer. Couldn't someone just take one? Music and chatter float from the back of the house, so he makes his way there, steeling himself for the small talk he'll have to bear. It smells clean, like fake pine and soap, the way a house should smell when you're expecting company. He goes over the questions he prepared ahead of time to make sure he doesn't get stumped. How do you know Miss Jackie? What do you teach? Are your students engaged this year? No one notices when he enters the living room, he'll call it, where most of the guests grip cocktails in one hand as they mingle. That's what he calls this mingling. It's a sufficiently vague word used for specific social gatherings, a word Marcus imagines as a portmanteau of muddling and tingling, the two things he decides the word best describes. No, the wood-paneled room is probably more of a den. The retirement party is for Jacqueline Owens, an English teacher at Delgado Community College. Marcus works there in IT, mostly resetting email passwords for people who've forgotten theirs. She'd also taught at the University of New Orleans, which is why Marcus figures he only recognizes some of the faces from work. He scans the room for the English department chair, Evelyn, an old friend of his mother, who had insisted they all come, but she's nowhere to be found. Marcus's mother had worked at Delgado as a history teacher, helped him get his job back in 2003. It's Evelyn's house, so she's probably off in the kitchen, helping with the hors d'oeuvres or cocktails or some other secret function a missing hostess might be up to. That or hiding in the master bathroom, where he'd be if this was his house and his party. A younger woman with flat hair and a flat forehead leans against a window frame. She gazes into the yard, sipping quietly from a fluted glass, the pink contents disappearing in a way Marcus knows means she's nervous, or an alcoholic, or a nervous alcoholic. He thinks that's a good opening line, so he walks over to the flattened woman and asks which of those she is, nervous, an alcoholic, or both. I'm waiting for someone, she answers, then drains the narrow glass and clinks it against a window. Should be here any minute, thanks. You're welcome. Marcus smiles reflexively. She pushes herself away from the window frame, causing her cheeks to puff out and air to scatter her bangs. She's less flat now. How do you know Miss Jackie? Marcus asks. It's time for another drink. The woman pulls her lips into a tight line and flattens out again, making her way across the room towards an open door that leads to the kitchen. How do you know Miss Jackie? What do you teach? Are your students engaged this year? He should have stuck to his list. Things always get so mixed up when he tries to wing it. A few years back at an office Christmas party, he tried talking to a coworker's wife about a documentary he watched on the Apollo 11 moon landing, explaining that NASA had carefully scripted Neil Armstrong's words, but that Neil had left out an A when the time come. Was supposed to be one small step for a man. The woman insisted the moon landing was fake, so it didn't matter anyway what Neil Armstrong said. Marcus had called her an imbecile and almost gotten himself fired. Okay, y'all. So my writing, like I said earlier, is very different, right? I have some things that are, queer fiction. I have a lot of stuff where I talk about Katrina. I also have science fiction that I'm working on, and dystopian future. So I work on a lot of stuff. If you want to ever look at my writing, if you want to read it, you can go to my website. It's jmichaelnorris.net. I do have a blog there where I occasionally update with events like the one that we're having today. I guess most of all, I want to thank all of you who came for coming. I hope you enjoyed the event. And I hope to see you all at the next one, okay?